Thank you for your inquiry. My next musical rendition will take place at 2 o'clock this afternoon. I sincerely hope you can attend.
Welcome back, dear friends. Now, if you'd watched the last video, you'll know that I ended up by mentioning a project for this one because I can't stop working on Victoria the singing automaton and her ukulele playing machine. Just can't. It's got to the most enjoyable part of the project where most of it's done, it's all working, and now I can just add stuff. And I realised the other day, because it's really exciting, and I'll explain more about it later on, we're going to be attending our first steampunk event since they all stopped in the pandemic. It's 3 or 4 years ago. It's in Whitby, and it's next February, and it's ever so exciting. I cannot wait. And thanks to several viewers and subscribers and things who've been suggesting that it would be nice if I did attend one so they could come and see all the machines. So that's exciting. Then I was thinking, of course, with Victoria, the singing automaton, that I don't want her playing all the time. Because if she plays all the time, well, it'll wind up the other stall holders, it'll wind us up, and it'll mean that, you know, everything gets an awful lot of wear and tear. So I was thinking, how can we let people know when she's next going to perform, the time? And I thought, rather than me saying it, wouldn't it be nice if Victoria could, because she's going to be moving all the time, watching people regardless. So then I thought, well, I'll cut another long story short, remote control, that's the way forward. I'm going to have a small remote control fob in my pocket, and then when someone says, when's the next one, I say, well, ask Victoria. They'll ask Victoria, I can then click the button, she'll look up, and she'll say, thank you very much for your inquiry. My next rendition is going to take place at, and she can tell the time, so the time it's going to happen. That means, of course, that I need a way of telling Victoria when the next performance is, because it's not going to be a real-time clock in there. It needs to be something that I can set. So last time I was thinking, a nice complicated way would be to use one of the Strowger telephone dials. I haven't used one in any machines yet because it's still a little bit electromechanical, not sure. But I found one. Let me show you. This is what I'm talking about. You cannot beat having a loft absolutely stuffed with exciting magical stuff. This is actually one from a pretend old-fashioned phone, probably from the 70s, I should think. So the idea is, I mean, look, the young of today have no idea what these are, but they're really, really clever. They work by having a switch which opens and closes very rapidly depending on how many clicks it needs, and another switch that closes or opens after you've started turning the dial to tell the telephone exchange what it's doing. They're amazing, and they've also got a governor, which I just love. So there's the governor, and all this type always have the same as that sort of governor in some sort of little pot, and it's so nice that that's copper, that's really brass, that's really steel, and no one's ever going to see this. And I was thinking, oh, where can I put this? Where could that fit, and am I still happy with using one of these? And then I thought it could sit on the back, but then I thought there's lots of stuff in the back. The only place it could fit is right near the bottom, but I can't then see the numbers. So, no, I'll save that for another project for another rainy day. Then, whilst walking the dog this very morrow, I thought, well, how about having a disc, a variable resistor potentiometer connected to the Teensy, luckily which has still got one analog input, and that can go round and stick out one side through a little slot, and I can turn it, because I don't want anything else sticking out the back, because obviously this is going to have to be packed away, and I don't want things that stick out and can be snapped off. I think that's really nice. And then having a little lens and a window so you can clearly see what time it's set to. So 12 hours, each one sort of 15-minute intervals, something like that. So that's my plan for today, Stan. I'm going to open this up again and try and work out how to fit and how to make all that, as always, without completely ruining and demolishing what I've already got. It's all going very well. Let me show you what I've done. I made a thing. What a beautiful thing it is. Love working in brass. That thing is going to support an engraved disc and fix it to the shaft of a potentiometer. which is one of them. Currently I've got it fixed onto this piece of wood and connected to the multimeter to read resistance, and I'm just identifying, locating where where the resistance starts changing at each extremity, so I can work out the angle, so I can then divide and design the disc with all the times on. Here's my current design for the enclosure. It's actually going to fix on the back because I just don't think there's room inside. The potentiometer can fit inside, but nice little bit of engraving around there, that's going to sit on the back. Then there's this bit, so there's 2 extra layers. Oh, a third layer with the lens in. And I've got it worked out now where the lens is going, where I can put the text on the wheel. Now I've worked out the angle of the dangule, I can mark that on and then divide it by however many hours, minutes and whatever else I need. I think I'm happy with that. I've tried setting this to 100% and holding the magnifier over to make sure it fits inside the lens, and it does. Green's going to be the raster engraving, red's going to be just line engrave, and the black will be to cut it out. So I think before I decide exactly where the lens is going to be positioned on the other bits, I'll get this engraved and then I can line it all up and check. This is raster engraving, isn't that incredible? It's so precise and accurate and small. I think the fractions are 2 millimeters high. Beautiful, but slow. And there we have it. I'm very pleased with that because that's going to fit on the back over that bit, which will fix the potentiometer to. This bit which holds the lens, look, how has he done that, I hear cry, because the lens has a little lip around the bottom that needs to be secreted somewhere. Well, I used this very, very, very sharp end feed cutter thing on the pillar drill again, the wonderful pillar drill. Just put that underneath it, set it to the right height, and then very carefully moved it round one slip. Yes, I don't even dare thinking about that. But that's very handy. So what I'm going to do now is to stain all this up. Anyway, you can get a better idea of what's going on. There's the dial, that's going to sit under there. And then the numbers are going to appear through the hole. And I can adjust them by turning that. That's what I've been wittering on about. So the dog is going absolutely spare. It's time to go and hunt some squirrels in the park. So I will stain this, take her out, and then hopefully it will be dry by the time I get back. So that's glued together nicely with obviously a lovely red felt disc, and the lens looks really nice, and when you hold it over the thing you can see it magnifies it by the correct amount. I've got this mounted, the potentiometer, look at that, isn't that lovely? Glorious, in fact. Beautiful colour wires. And that just fits, I'm so pleased about this, just fits between those 2 speakers, look at that. And there's still enough room for the air to go around, I've checked. I can just turn it. I'll say the next one's at 230. There we are, 2.5, 230, that'll do. Lovely, gravings come out well, that's nice. So I've got all that installed and connected up to the Teams in. Just as I was doing that, the doorbell went. Look what's arrived. This is the remote control I ordered yesterday from Amazon. I don't know what it's going to do, but it looks like it should be okay. That's very smart. It's an ages trying to find one. Oh, it's got a red flashing light, that's nice. With just one button, because if it's in your pocket, I didn't want to have 2 buttons or anything else. Fiddly perhaps, finicky, but I'm pleased with that. Very smart. 12 volts in. I've pressed the learning button once and I've clicked the button on here, and then look, that's the sound of the relay. I can come over here. This is very exciting. Oh, amazing. There we are, we've got that connected. Just how many wires can you fit inside a singing automaton head? I mean, these bus bar things, the junctions for the +5 noughts and +12 volts, they could have been 2 or 3 times as big and I still wouldn't have had enough room. It's lunacy, I tells ya. Right, let's put it back together again for the umpteenth time. Fix that over there, screw that on. Hopefully This might be the last time that I have to see inside it. Who knows? 0, 1. Isn't that amazing? Fantastic. So I know the inputs, those two input devices are working, so now I can start fiddling and flirting about with adding to the sketch. Oh, and there she is, looking up at something. So thrilling having got her moving. And because the Arduino is doing all the movements, that will run quite happily while I can fiddle around with the teensy. The linear potentiometer isn't that linear, which is really annoying. So what I'm going to have to do is it's only 48 measurements, I suppose. It is possibly asking a lot. Again, it's pushing the forefront of intelligence, I think, actually. I don't know whether it can even cope with being divided into 48 bits. What I'm going to have to do is to go through and measure each one and then put them in an array and then do it that way. It would have been nice to do it the other way, but I think it is just asking too much of this potentiometer, even though it cost me £7.50. So I thought I'd get a good quality one. Couldn't believe how much it cost from a reputable supplier. I can't remember who. They used to be sort of 75p. Mind you, I may be going back quite a long way then. I might as well show you me destroying something. Is that the right thing to do? Hang on a minute. I should really make a note of where this starts, shouldn't I? Yes, that's lucky I snapped that bit off. I'll make a note on here so when I glue it back on I know exactly where it's going to go. Having not had much luck last night getting the teensy to print out the analog output from the potentiometer every 10 times a second, and me trying to sit there watching it intently to try and work out averages unsuccessfully, this very morrow I've decided to automate the process, thankfully. So here's a little sketch or function or whatever that just takes 100 readings, waits 100 milliseconds, so it does 10 a second, and then adds it and works out the average and then prints it, which is an absolute joy. So what I do is, look, for example, I'm going to move, I've done that one, I'm going to move that on to 2:45 or whatever that equates to, like so, 160. And then I type it into here. There we are, we've got to there. 160, I made it 155. So I was fairly close, but this is going to be a far better way to do it. So I'm creating a new array, basically, of the centre points of each of these time markings on the dial. I'll get on with it. This is now working beautifully. Oh, it's printing out. This is just so I can test it. But if I just move it to the next one, I found just going past it and then back a little bit. We go back to here. There we are, it's moved on to the next one. So I've now got these two functions, and the next thing is to get her to construct speech based on the time set on the dial on the back. I tell you, it doesn't get much better than this. I'm living the dream here. Brilliant. Just before I take the dog for a walk, it's just time to put the reading the dial into a function. I've learnt it's a very good idea to call it what it is, or does, read time dial. The lovely thing about this coding is that if you don't want it to return anything, a function like this, you put void there, you just type void, and you can send arguments, I think they call them. I don't like arguing, so I haven't got any here, but within those brackets if you want to send information to the function. So all this does is when you call it, it just does all that, sorts out which time code has been selected on the dial, and then returns it. Another exciting day. Funnily enough, this very morrow, I woke up at 5 o'clock to do a wee, as you do, got back into bed and thought, oh, this is so nice and comfortable. What can I think about just to ebb my way back into sleep? I'll think about how to get Victoria to tell when the next performance is. My brain then sprang into life, adrenaline pumping around my body or whatever it gets your brain going, and I lay awake for the next hour. Wide awake until 6 o'clock when I just had to come downstairs and start sorting things out. It's now about 1 in the afternoon and I am starting to feel very tired, but I have had a lot of success. Last night I got my wife to record all the different phrases that we need to get Victoria to tell us when her next performance will be. Let me show you. There we are. Got it planned. Broke it all down. I think I've got everything that I need. And she's recorded all of them. I've got the levels sorted out. I've got them all recorded as WAV files. Put them onto the little SD card that plugs into the Teensy. And most important, well, not most important, equally as importantly, get that wretched reflection out of the picture. Oh, days. I've worked out, again, lying wide awake at 5 o'clock, the yesterday's solution, having everything in a while loop, wouldn't work, because further down the main loop of the sketch, obviously, is all the voice control, the audio filters, her voice opening, her mouth opening and closing, all that. It wouldn't have actually seen any of that. So I've worked out an alternative, having looked at one of the lovely examples, the audio examples, that comes with the Arduino thing. And it works. I haven't sorted out the actual timing, that's the next thing, but let's have a look and see. Here she is, happily looking around, although I haven't reconnected that, having taken it to pieces several times already this morning. If I click this...
Thank you so much for your inquiry. My next performance will take place at 1 o'clock. I shall be ever so pleased if you are present.
There you go. Excellent. So my next job is to sort out reading the time setting dial on the back of her cabinet and turning that into the right terminology for the audio files. So, for example, if she's always going to say there's a random element that'll pick one of these first introductory comments, then she needs to say the time. Now, it could be 1, for example, 1 o'clock, or it could be 1:15, or 1:30, or 1:45. I've got to try and work out a structure for that to involve them, and also whether it's, I'm going to make a rash judgment, whether it's in the morning, assuming that I'm not pulling an all-nighter. It's a fair bet that before 12 o'clock will be morning and afterwards will be afternoon. And then finally, a final comment. So, though this is fascinating, I love things like this. Obviously I did it for the Is It Time for Tea machine.
The time is now 23 minutes past 11 post-meridian.
But I don't think I'm going to cheat and look and see how I did that. I'm going to work it out from scratch. So basically, whatever I do will then sit in one of these little blocks where it cycles through each time and says, OK, I've done that, now it's time to tell the time. Let's have a look and see what we can do with that. I'll get back to you. Oh, the other lovely thing, lovely thing, with Paul Sophrogen's Teensy example, one of the examples, it showed how to store the names of each of the audio files in an array with a reference thing, which I can never remember how they work. I thought I was going to have to sit slumped over a hot laptop for hours trying to figure this out, because what it means is you can just tell it, OK, I want the fourth file in that array to play, so you can do maths with it and decisions and just send it a number, because that's what all this does. It goes through different stages, but at the end of it, it creates a constant character thing with the funny reference thing and other things. The main thing is it does then play the right file. That's very exciting. A brief walk with a dog, and I got it sorted out. I've just printed it so I can check whether my theory works, but it does. It shows the hour on the left, and it shows the sort of fraction, whether it's a whole hour, a quarter, a half, or 3/4. And that's brilliant, because that's analysed it. That's all it took. It cycles through, counting up, and will jump out when it finds the right time code. I'm so pleased. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you next time. Please remember to click the buttons and things on YouTube. I think next time it's going to be, because she's finished now, it's amazing. I'm going to make a proper video of her singing and everything, if I can tune the ukulele, but that's another story for another time. Thanks again.
Thank you for your inquiry. My next musical rendition will take place at 2 o'clock. this afternoon. I sincerely hope you can attend. Thank you for inquiring. My next performance is scheduled to take place at 5:30 this afternoon. I shall be ever so pleased if you are present. Thank you for your inquiry. Sadly, I am unaware of the time of my next performance, as Mr. Steamhead has failed to impart the necessary information. Despite having taken him years to get me working, his shortcomings sadly remain only too obvious. I would suggest asking Mr. Steamhead directly. Please accept my sincere apologies.